My daughter is in critical condition in Tokyo.
A woman, unable to pass through the ticket gate, broke down crying at the station.
I offered her my ticket. Please, take it. What? It was the ticket I needed to attend a very important wedding.
The thought of what might happen if I were late was terrifying. But still,
I wanted her to use it. Later, my boss, Ray,
curious that I was late to the wedding,
said something unbelievable. You embarrassed me.
You're fired.
I had angered the one person I couldn't afford to.
Even though I regretted it, there was no undoing the situation. But even so, I don't think I made the wrong choice. I was able to help a family in need. And, in a way, I saved myself by making that choice.
All right, I got it.
Talk to you later. I hung up the phone roughly and picked up the pace, trying to make up for lost time.
I absolutely couldn't be late today.
Sweating profusely, I continued to sprint through the station. My name is Michael, 28 years old. I'm about to board the bullet train to attend Ray's wedding. Of course, I can't afford to be late. That's why I left my hotel earlier than planned, just to be safe.
Mom, you didn't have to call me today of all days.
I got caught up in one of my mom's usual long phone calls at the worst possible time. The topic was too important to brush her off, so I couldn't just hang up. Trying to navigate an unfamiliar train system while on the phone, I ended up on the wrong line.
And now I'm barely going to make it for the bullet train.
Hey, watch it. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. I was running so fast, I didn't even have time to look around, which earned me a few glares from people passing by. Guess I should have at least listened to her.
What a terrible son I am.
I was the only one from my rural high school to get into Tokyo University. After graduation, I landed a job at a top company, was assigned to the prestigious sales department, and clung on for years. Barely surviving the harsh competition, and then I met him, just when I was finally starting to get recognized.
Quite a journey from the countryside, huh? Must have been tough for you.
Ray sneered as soon as he heard where I was from. He was born and raised in Tokyo, with study abroad experience during his school years. He held a key position at an overseas branch before being brought in with much fanfare as the new sales director.
A true elite. I disliked him from that moment on. Hey, country boy. Get these documents in order. And make sure it's in standard language, got it? Hey, country boy, make some copies of this. I just have to ask, do you even know how to use a copier? Ray constantly called me country boy and made me do all sorts of menial tasks. Thanks to him,
the promising days of my career came to an abrupt end. Before long, everyone around me only saw me as Ray's errand boy, and no matter how well I performed, I stopped getting any recognition. Amidst all this, Ray's marriage was announced. His fiancée was the daughter of an executive at one of our client companies, and you can imagine how smug he was. He generously invited everyone in the department to the wedding and reception.
Michael, you better be there. I've got a special favor to ask.
Sure. For once, Ray didn't call me country boy and instead used my name, smiling and in a particularly good mood. I had a bad feeling about it, and as it turned out, I was right. But having to go on a business trip out of town the day before the wedding.
Could this be Ray's doing, too? With that suspicion, I finally spotted the ticket gate.
I was cutting it close, but it looked like I was going to make the bullet train.
Ha, ha. Oh, thank goodness.
Relieved, I couldn't help but throw my fist in the air, not caring who saw.
Ray personally asked me, give the speech on behalf of the subordinates.
In other words, he wanted me to praise him to the skies in front of bride and her family, and make sure everyone knows what a great boss he is. And there was one more favor Ray had asked of me.
So, I'm supposed to wear this? In front of over 100 people. I peeked into the paper bag I was carrying and couldn't help but grimace.
Inside was a flashy, revealing outfit meant for a woman.
Wearing this, I'm supposed to perform at the wedding reception.
A dance with ridiculous movements, almost like an octopus.
I didn't want to go. Maybe if I missed the bullet train.
But if I canceled at the last minute, who knows what kind of wrath I'd face later.
Resolving myself, I headed briskly toward the ticket gate. And then it happened. Ha! My heart skipped a beat, and I stopped in my tracks.
There, in front of the gate, someone was crouched down. Her back was trembling, and every now and then, a faint sob escaped.
Mom? No way.
I was just talking to her on the phone from home. But something about that figure made me approach her cautiously, as if I were drawn to it. The resemblance to my mother was uncanny. Step by step, I inched closer.
As I spoke up.
Oh. I felt my face flush as I quickly averted my gaze. The woman who looked up at me was a complete stranger, not my mother at all.
What? Oh. I'm sorry, I thought you were someone else. I hastily apologized to the confused woman, trying to cover my embarrassment.
And then, I hastily tried to rush through the ticket gate with a quick sorry, but my feet wouldn't move, as if they were stuck to the floor.
Excuse me, are you okay? Ha! I couldn't help but ask.
Her eyes were swollen and red, as if she'd been crying for who knows how long, and her shirt collar was soaked with tears. What kind of pain had she been through? Maybe it was because she reminded me of my mom from behind. If I just walked away, I felt like I wouldn't be able to face my mother, so I offered my hand to the woman.
For now, let's move over there. It's not safe here.
Okay. I helped her to her feet and guided her to a corner where no one was passing by.
Even as we moved, she continued to cry.
My daughter, she's in critical condition. When I asked what was wrong, she was so distraught that she could barely speak. She finally managed to force out those few words before collapsing in tears again.
Your daughter. The hospital just called. I need to get to Tokyo, fast.
Through her sobs, she struggled to explain.
Summarizing the parts I could barely make out, it goes like this. The daughter of a woman living in Tokyo was taken to the hospital after an accident.
The hospital had just informed her that her daughter's condition had worsened, so she rushed to the station to catch the next bullet train to Tokyo.
But then, my wallet. I left it at the hotel. What? You forgot your wallet at the hotel? No way. Sorry, Chloe. I'm so sorry. Chloe, her daughter's name, no doubt. The woman is crying out repeatedly, Chloe, Chloe.
Her voice was heart-wrenching.
I fell silent. In my suit pocket was my ticket to Tokyo.
As I felt it there, a thought crossed my mind.
Maybe this ticket was here for a reason. Please, use this. What? The woman looked at me in confusion as I handed her the ticket.
I gently forced it into her hand and then reached back into my pocket. Following my mother's advice, I had tucked away a few bills just in case.
Take this too, just in case. For a cab or something. Wait, I can't. The train's leaving any minute.
I urged her towards the ticket gate, gently pushing her along. She turned back to look at me several times, and finally, she bowed deeply.
Thank you so much. Go on, hurry. Really, thank you. She called out her thanks one last time before disappearing through the gate. Watching her go, I felt a sense of clarity and satisfaction wash over me. Ha! I guess I'm not so bad after all. Ray had looked down on me for so long that I had completely lost my confidence. But being able to help someone in a moment like that, maybe I wasn't so hopeless. If she gets to see her daughter, the cost of another ticket is a small price to pay. Ticket. Oh, right, I need to get another one. Suddenly realizing this, I rushed to the ticket machine. The current train had already left, but another would be arriving in about an hour. I'd be a little late for the wedding, but that was better than not showing up at all. Thank goodness, there are still seats available. I started the process at the ticket machine and reached for my wallet to pay, only to realize, my wallet was gone. I searched my bag, my pockets, and even the paper bag with the outfit for the performance. But it was nowhere to be found. Oh no! I suddenly remembered that I had left it on the table. Just like that woman, I had also forgotten my wallet at the hotel. This is bad. Panicking, I rushed back to the hotel. But since I had already checked out, my wallet had been collected as a lost item. It took quite a bit of time to prove that it was mine and to retrieve it. On top of that, the money in my wallet wasn't enough to buy another ticket, so I had to waste more time withdrawing cash from an ATM. By the time I finally boarded the next bullet train. You really know how to embarrass someone, don't you? Ray, in his tuxedo, glared at me with a piercing gaze. I had missed the wedding entirely and arrived at the reception hours late. I'm so sorry, the speech. Someone else did it. It was last minute, so it was a mess. Let me at least do the performance. Forget it. Just wait until I get back from my honeymoon, you'll see. With that, he stormed off, leaving me utterly dejected. And later, when Ray returned from his honeymoon, I was called into his office and harshly reprimanded. People who can't keep their promises are trash, unfit for the workplace. Are you even sorry? I'm truly sorry. You're fired. What? Thinking I must have misheard, I instinctively asked for clarification. But that only fueled Ray's anger further. What do you mean, what? You haven't shown a hint of remorse this whole time. No, that's not it. I don't even want to see your face anymore. Watch me. I'll find a way to fire a country bumpkin like you, for whatever reason I want. You humiliated someone like me. This can't be happening. Soon enough, I realized he meant every word. A termination notice arrived, citing neglect of duties, something I was completely innocent of. As he handed me the notice, Ray gave a sinister smile. Make sure you do a better job at your next place. I fell silent. And so, I left the company I had worked at for 6 years. After that, Ray told me, there's no work left for someone who's leaving, and I was practically forced to leave early that day. Ow. With slumped shoulders and heavy steps, I walked out of the office. Even if I tried to protest my innocence, everyone sided with the accomplished Ray. It was pathetic that I couldn't even muster a defense, knowing my words would likely fall on deaf ears. Was I always such a coward? Maybe it's time to go home. Just as I thought of my mother back home, it happened. Excuse me. A woman's voice suddenly called out to me. I turned around to find a woman in her 50s, with an air of elegance, standing in front of the company. Are you? Oh, I knew it. Thank you so much for your help the other day. I suddenly recognized the woman and let out an "oh" as I realized who she was.
She looked like a completely different person now, with a bright and sunny smile. She was the woman I had given my bullet train ticket to at the station. Oh, I'm glad I found the right company. But how did you know it was here? It's the logo. I happen to be familiar with these things, she said with a graceful smile, pointing to her collar. On my suit, I always wore the company pin with the company logo, even on the day of Ray's wedding. Somehow, she had remembered the detail despite everything that happened. It's a habit of mine, given my line of work. But thanks to that, I was able to find you and return this. Here's the money for the ticket and the cash you lent me. I'm sorry it took so long to repay you. With a gentle smile, she handed me an envelope. After I took it, she stepped back and bowed deeply. Thank you so much. Because of you, I was able to see my daughter. Oh. Her eyes were slightly teary as she raised her head. I hesitated for a moment. Should I ask what happened next? I worried that her daughter might not have. But it seemed she understood my concern. She smiled and nodded deeply. She pulled through. The surgery was successful, and she's on the road to recovery. Really? That's wonderful. Yes. Ah, thank goodness. As the tension left me, my legs suddenly gave out, and I collapsed weakly to the ground. I'm sorry, I haven't introduced myself. My name is Tiffany, she said as she helped me back to my feet, finally introducing herself. When I told her my name, she looked at me with a slightly apologetic expression. May I ask one more favor of you? Would you mind coming with me to visit my daughter's hospital room, Michael? Oh, sure. At Tiffany's request, I visited the hospital where her daughter, Chloe, was admitted. She had insisted that her daughter wanted to thank me in person, even though I said it wasn't necessary. But in the end, I couldn't refuse Tiffany's request. Excuse me. I stepped into the hospital room, feeling nervous. The moment I saw her, I couldn't help but catch my breath. Oh, Mom. You're here earlier than usual today. She was probably in her early 20s, a few years younger than me. Her features were so delicate and well-formed that she could have passed for either a high school student or an adult. She turned her large, expressive eyes toward Tiffany, moving her perfectly shaped lips. Despite the bandages that covered much of her body, her beauty was striking, almost radiant, as she lay in the hospital bed. Hey, who's that with you? I was speechless. Her sudden gaze caught me off guard, making my heart skip a beat. Tiffany gently chided her, saying, "That's not very polite," and introduced me to her daughter. "This is Michael, the one who gave me the bullet train ticket." "Chloe, he's your benefactor." "What?" I was taken aback by her words, not expecting such a title. Chloe's large eyes widened even further. Then, she slowly sat up and bowed deeply to me. "I'm so sorry for my appearance. Thank you so much for what you did." "No, really, it was nothing." Her gratitude was so sincere and polite that it made me feel even more embarrassed. The contrast between her current demeanor and the playful tone she had earlier was striking. And it made my heart skip a beat once again. When my heart was about to stop, my mother rushed in and held my hand. At that moment, my heart rate suddenly started to increase. The doctor told me about it after I woke up. If my mother hadn't made it in time, I might not be here now. So, because you gave her that ticket, you saved my life. Thank you, truly. Tiffany also bowed deeply to me again. Sometimes, people experience things that can't be explained by logic alone. Like Chloe, who, despite being unconscious, somehow sensed her mother's presence and found the strength to survive.
I really didn't do much. Well, I'll be going now.
Before they could lift their heads, I quickly headed out into the hallway. Otherwise, I might have started crying right there in front of these two women I had just met. It was the bond between Chloe and Tiffany that had created such a miraculous outcome. But it seemed that I had been able to help, even just a little. Even though helping them had led to me losing my job. I didn't regret my decision, so it felt like they were telling me I had done the right thing. And that thought brought a surge of tears to my eyes.
Michael.
Before I knew it, Tiffany was standing beside me, gently rubbing my back as I cried. Her touch was so similar to how my mother would comfort me when I was a tearful child, right down to the warmth of her hand.
Did something happen? If you don't mind, would you like to talk about it?
There was something in Tiffany's words that made me instinctively nod. Maybe, deep down, I had wanted someone to listen all along. We moved to the hospital's lounge, where I shared what had happened after I left the station.
How I realized I had also forgotten my wallet. How I ended up being terribly late to Ray's wedding. And how that led to Ray's anger and my eventual firing from the company.
As my story unfolded, Tiffany's expression grew increasingly somber.
Oh my. Then I really caused you so much trouble. No.
It was my own fault. If only I had double-checked for my wallet before leaving the hotel.
If only I hadn't left my wallet out the night before.
If only I had put a little extra cash in my wallet, just in case. There were so many things I could have done differently, but thinking about them now was pointless.
It's fine. Honestly, I didn't really feel comfortable at that company anyway. Is that so? Yeah, ever since the new boss took over. So maybe it was a good opportunity.
I planned to use up my remaining vacation days and then leave the company for good. I had braced myself for an immediate dismissal, so it was surprising that they were allowing me to finish this way.
Apparently, even Ray had some reservations about firing me under false pretenses.
I've been so busy all these years, so I think I'll just take it easy for a while. Not that I really have any hobbies or anything.
Well,
Tiffany still looked a bit apologetic, but then she smiled warmly and said, "You've worked hard. I'm sure you'll find a new job soon, Michael."
I hope so. I really do. Yes, I'm sure of it. I wasn't entirely at peace yet, but Tiffany's encouragement made me feel a bit more optimistic. And, if it's not too much to ask, would you be willing to visit my daughter from time to time? What? I almost choked on my coffee. Did she mean?
I'm often busy with work and can't visit her as much as I'd like.
If you have some free time, I'd appreciate it if you could check in on her. I know it's a lot to ask.
Oh, I see, of course. I felt embarrassed for a moment, thinking that maybe Chloe had wanted to see me.
To hide my embarrassment, I nodded eagerly. Absolutely. This is some kind of fate, so I'd be happy to. Oh, thank you. I'm sure Chloe will be delighted. Really? Well, if that's the case, I'm happy too. Honestly, it's quite. I decided to keep these feelings hidden from Tiffany. During my time off, I would end up visiting Chloe's hospital room every day. That Ray guy sounds awful.
You were working at a real toxic workplace, Michael.
Toxic workplace. Well, we didn't have holidays or anything, so maybe. Getting fired was probably the best thing that could have happened. I know it's not my place to say, but Haha, yeah, you're probably right. It's more of a relief, really.
Chloe and I quickly became close after I started visiting her in the hospital.
It was thanks to her cheerful personality and gift for conversation.
I've always been awkward in social situations, but with her, I found myself opening up effortlessly.
Maybe, just maybe. Michael? Ha!
Suddenly, Chloe leaned in close, her elegant face just inches from mine.
Lately, I couldn't stop thinking about her, even when I was at home. Being this close to her now, my heart might stop. What? Oh. Sorry, that was insensitive of me. It's okay, I didn't hear anything, though I guess my heart did almost stop once. So you did hear. Chloe laughed brightly. In any case, I was just glad she was getting better. If she weren't, we wouldn't be having these conversations. Well, it's almost time for your checkup. I guess I should be going. As I stood up to leave, Chloe suddenly grabbed my arm. Wait. Chloe? Michael, thank you, really. It's okay. Both Tiffany and you have already conveyed your feelings to me. It's not just that. There are other reasons I'm glad I got to meet you, Michael.
She then began to tell me about her past. When Chloe was a child, her parents divorced. Tiffany worked extremely hard to raise her,
And she was very strict as a mother. She didn't want us to be looked down on just because we were a single-parent family. I understand her feelings now, but back then, all I could do was rebel and say, "You're never even home."
feeling lonely from not spending time with her mother and frustrated by her strictness. Chloe started acting out. From the way she is now, it's hard to believe, but Chloe told me that until just a few years ago, she and her mother barely spoke.
I love my mom now. But
I didn't realize just how much she loved me until she rushed to my side on that bullet train.
it's because of you, Michael, that I got to know that. So, thank you. You must be such a wonderful son for your parents. Your parents must be so proud of you.
She smiled at me as she said this.
But I fell silent. Michael? Is something wrong? I don't have a father either. He passed away when I was little. Oh. I'm sorry to hear that. Anne? I'm not a wonderful son at all. What do you mean?
Like Chloe, I was also raised by a single mother. My mother was always busy, so I spent most of my childhood alone at home. To distract myself from the loneliness and to avoid worrying my mother, I threw myself into my studies.
As a result, my grades soared. Michael, you're a genius. Getting into Tokyo University someday isn't just a dream. You can do it.
I used to brush off my mother's words as just typical parental pride, but I never imagined that I would actually get accepted a few years later.
The way my mother celebrated when I got in. It's amazing. I knew you were a genius, Michael. Hooray! She was like a child, bragging to everyone she met.
I felt proud of myself too, for making her so happy.
But
I was just a big fish in a small pond.
when I entered the workforce, I realized that there were so many people better than me. Having a degree from Tokyo University didn't give me any advantage there. Colleagues with less impressive academic backgrounds quickly outpaced me in performance and promotions.
I was ridiculed as a country bumpkin and forced to kiss up to a boss I couldn't stand.
And in the end,
I haven't told my mother I got fired.
I don't want to worry her.
I can't bear to shatter her belief that her son is the town's top elite.
Michael, The reason I clung to a job I hated, even when I wanted to quit, it was because I was terrified of disappointing my mother. Even though I'm no longer the person she expects me to be. Are you eating well, Michael? Make sure you're getting enough sleep at night. Try to get outside for some exercise sometimes. I know you're working hard, but my mother's frequent calls were always about her concerns for me. Oh, and just then, my phone started ringing again. It is another call from my mother. I couldn't bring myself to answer it, so I tapped the ignore button. I'll call her back later. I'm in a hospital, after all. The truth is, I've done this several times already. I just can't face her calls. I'm too afraid that my lies will be exposed. Ha ha. Maybe I should just block her number. Just kidding. Michael. Chloe's voice snapped me out of my thoughts. I realized how terrible my thoughts had become. Seeing my distress, Chloe firmly grasped my trembling hand. I have somewhere I want to go after I'm discharged. Will you take me there? There was a certain intensity in her eyes as she asked me this. Overwhelmed, I could only nod and say, okay. And so, about a month later, Chloe recovered with a speed that surprised even the doctors, and she was eventually discharged. To aid in her rehabilitation, we decided to take a trip together. I can't believe Tiffany let us go on a trip just the two of us. Of course, it's because she trusts you, Michael. Should I be happy about that? But the destination, well, the place Chloe wanted to visit. It was none other than my hometown. I've always imagined it must be a beautiful place. And it really is, just as I thought. The scenery is gorgeous, and the air is so fresh. Well, that's about all there is here. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. We walked slowly along the familiar paths of my hometown, matching Chloe's pace as she used her crutches. Now that she mentioned it, the scenery and air really were beautiful. When I lived here, I never thought this rural place had anything of value. Chloe, are you okay? We're almost at my parents' house. I'm fine. I'm so excited to meet your mom. I fell silent. I couldn't even remember the last time I visited home. What would I say to my mother when I saw her? No, did I even deserve to face her? After a few minutes of walking, lost in thought, we finally arrived at my mother's house, where she was waiting. Oh my. As soon as our eyes met, my mother and I both let out a surprised exclamation. She had been tending to the garden outside, but as soon as she saw us, she dropped her trowel and rushed over. Not to me, but to Chloe. Oh dear, what happened to you? You're hurt. Yes, I had a little accident, but I'm okay now. Oh, you poor thing. Come, sit down. You need to rest. Thank you so much. I didn't say anything. My mother beckoned Chloe and had her sit on the porch. She seemed to have no regard for her son, serving tea and offering snacks solely to Chloe. She had always loved hosting guests, and that part of her hadn't changed at all. But she did seem a bit thinner. Then, she turned to me with a mischievous smile. Michael, why didn't you tell me you were bringing such a lovely girlfriend? You should have warned me. Girlfriend? No, she's not. Yes, I'm Michael's girlfriend. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Smith. Chloe. To my shock, Chloe played along with my mother's misunderstanding. From that point on, my chatty mother and Chloe hit it off, talking nonstop on the porch until the sun began to set. Michael really saved me. He's a true lifesaver to me. My Michael did that? He's always been such a kind boy. And so smart, too. He was always top of his class. How many times are you going to tell the same stories, especially you, Mom?
I tried to cut in, exasperated, but my mother wouldn't stop.
He's still the only one from this town who got into Tokyo University, you know. Michael is my pride and joy.
And he got a job at such a prestigious company in Tokyo. They even run commercials on TV here.
Mom, that's enough.
The only reason her bragging didn't sound like boasting was because of how genuinely happy she looked as she spoke.
But I couldn't stand it anymore. After all, I had already quit that job long ago. And to top it all off, I was fired. Mom, actually. What is it, Michael? I need to tell you something.
I mustered the courage to tell her the truth.
But just as I was about to speak. That's right. What? Chloe? Michael works at a well-known, prestigious company. He's really amazing, and I respect him so much. Oh my, is that so? Yes. I was speechless.
Chloe's words made my mother even more ecstatic. She was so happy that she ordered the best sushi delivery for dinner, saying it was because I was working so hard.
Don't overdo it, Michael. Make sure you're eating well, getting enough sleep, and exercising sometimes.
Yeah. I ate the sushi mechanically, barely tasting it. After dinner, I practically fled from the house.
Your mom is wonderful. She's so kind, just like you, Michael. On the bus heading to the station, Chloe kept praising my mother. She even joked about becoming a part of my family. But I was too overwhelmed to react. Why did you come to my home, Chloe? Because I wanted to meet your mom. And what did you plan to do once you met her? Did you come just to lie? I didn't realize it, but my tone had become almost accusatory.
Instead of getting upset or hurt, Chloe paused for a moment, then quietly said,
I'm sorry. My mom and I have been hiding something from you, Michael. What? Both you and Tiffany? Yes. Chloe nodded and opened her bag.
She pulled out a small silver case and handed me one of the business cards inside.
Everything you need to know was on there. CEO. What? Tiffany. That's my mom's card. And this one is mine. Chloe handed me another business card.
It read Executive Vice President, Chloe. And underneath that was the name of a major apparel company that had grown rapidly in recent years.
Is this for real, Chloe?
It's the company my mom started when I was a child.
It's still growing, but we focus a lot on employee benefits.
Our salaries are among the best in the industry, and the bonuses are substantial.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry, I can't keep up with this.
In one fell swoop, I had learned about the true identities of Chloe and Tiffany, and their company, which rivaled even my former workplace. I was in complete shock, trying to process it all. Then Chloe made an even more unexpected offer.
Michael, how would you like to work at our company? What? What?
My mom just sent me a message saying, as long as Michael agrees, he can start whenever he's ready.
Take your time to think about it. We'll wait for your answer. I was speechless. I was left completely stunned.
The surprises Chloe had dropped on me today had completely floored me. Chloe, meanwhile, had turned her gaze to the passing scenery outside the bus window.
Her reflection in the glass looked oddly melancholic.
There were a lot of sad things that happened before the company grew to its current size.
for both my mom and me. What do you mean? We were betrayed by people we trusted, mocked behind our backs. That's why in our family, there's an unspoken rule. Don't trust others too easily. No way. That's so sad. When I blurted out these words, Chloe gave a faint smile and said, "Yes, it is. But, after meeting you, my mom and I realized something. There are people in this world, like you, who help others without expecting anything in return. That's why I want to try trusting people again. It's still a little scary, but I know I can trust you, Michael. That's why I want you to work with us." Without me realizing it, Chloe had taken my hand, looking at me with earnest eyes. "And just so you know, I didn't lie to your mother." "What?" "She knew. She knew you had quit your job." "Wait, what?" "It was when I had stepped out to use the restroom." My mother suddenly asked Chloe, "Hasn't Michael left his job?" "How did you know, Mrs. Smith?" "I can tell he is hiding something by how he acted." "It's just a feeling you get when your child is hiding something." Saying that, my mother laughed heartily. But then, her expression suddenly turned somber, with her eyebrows drooping in sadness. "It's my fault. I got so excited about his achievements that he probably feels like he can't let me down. It's his way of being kind to me. I've put too much pressure on him. Could you tell him for me, Chloe? That it doesn't matter if he works at a prestigious company or not. That he's my pride and joy just for growing up to be who he is. That he's my one and only son, and I'm proud of him no matter what." She said, "Just stay healthy, and it's enough if you occasionally pick up the phone. I'm sorry for all the pain I've caused you." "Your mother knew everything, didn't she?" "Ha ha. How does she always know?" I tried to laugh it off, but tears started streaming down my face. Chloe gently wiped them away with her handkerchief. "Do you want to go back and talk to her?" "There's still time." "No. I'll talk to her once I've settled into a new job. When I'm ready, I'll go back home and have that conversation." When I said this, Chloe's expression brightened instantly. "Now I want to go see my mom too. I really want to stay her daughter. When we get back to Tokyo, let's go visit her. I have something I want to tell her as well." "Okay." Chloe nodded happily, just as the bus arrived at the station. Before boarding the bullet train, I turned to Chloe and expressed my gratitude. "Thank you for bringing me here." After that, I started working as a salesperson at the company run by Chloe and Tiffany. As it turned out, both Chloe and Tiffany were surprisingly tough bosses, and they pushed me hard. My sales skills improved significantly under their guidance. I made new friends among my colleagues and enjoyed my new life. But then, out of the blue, "Well, isn't it you, Michael? I thought you'd gone back to the countryside, but I see you're still clinging to Tokyo." Ray, the person who showed up as the representative for a business negotiation, was none other than my former boss, Ray. He still had that condescending attitude, looking down on me like I was a country bumpkin. So, I decided to play along. "That's right. I just couldn't leave Tokyo behind, so I'm doing my best to stick around." "Haha, I see. I guess the big city is too exciting for someone from the sticks. But you sure are aiming too high, aren't you?" "Aiming high, you say?" "Yeah. You probably applied on a whim and somehow got lucky enough to be hired. But isn't it a bit of a stretch for a country bumpkin to work at an apparel company? I bet you don't even understand the latest trends." "Exactly. I have no idea what people are talking about half the time. Ha ha ha. I figured as much. You must be a real burden to them, just like you were back at our old place, huh? Absolutely. And since I don't appreciate the value of your company, I'll have to decline your offer. I said this with my best sales smile, and Ray's face went slack with shock. After countless negotiations, he finally secured the deal. But to have ruined this hard-earned opportunity by insulting the client. How will he report this to the company? Of course, I had no way of knowing. Chloe, my mom wants to know if you've decided on the day you'll visit next time. When I relayed my mother's message, Chloe quickly flipped through her planner. Hold on, let me check for an open day. Actually, even if I'm not free, I'll make time for her. You still adore my mom, don't you, Chloe? I chuckled, and she smiled brightly. Of course. Just then, another message came from my mother. I read it and was left speechless. She says she'll congratulate us when we see her. Wait, how does she? For some reason, Chloe responded to me with confidence. Her words carried an odd sense of conviction. She's your mom. She knows everything. Ha ha. Makes sense. We had planned to announce our engagement as a surprise, but apparently, my mom was already in on it. I realized I still had a lot to learn if I ever wanted to outsmart her. She's probably going to prepare a feast, isn't she? Yeah, I'd better call her and make sure she doesn't overdo it. Maybe, for once, I'll make the call first. When I added this, Chloe nodded happily. I need to start preparing too, for your mom's birthday party. It's that time of year already. Of course, I'll help. Let's both do our best to make our parents happy. Chloe and I exchanged smiles, understanding each other perfectly in that moment. Just because we're family doesn't mean we always understand each other without words. There were times I was frustrated with my mom, thinking, why doesn't she get it? And there were times when I failed to understand her feelings. But now, I realize that my mom has always cared about me deeply. As long as you're living well, that's enough for me, she would say. When I finally understood that, I realized just how much I had been loved all along. I've received so much love that I'm not sure I can ever repay it all. But from now on, little by little, together with the person I cherish, I want to start sharing my feelings with my mother too.